So the gazebo that we ordered is now arrived. We're going to take it out of the box and start putting this thing together. This is a DikaSun dual roof soft top patio gazebo. Basically, it's a 10 by 12 gazebo with a cloth top, and it's got curtains. Can't have too much shade in Texas, so we're going to put this thing together and see what it looks like. All right, so there is a lot of parts for this, nicely packaged inside the box. So the first thing I definitely recommend doing is just taking an inventory of all the parts that come with it and comparing those to what's in the manual that says you're supposed to have. So this is key for especially something this big with this many parts. You don't want to start, get halfway through to find out you don't have all your pieces. Usually it does not happen, but in any manufacturing process, you could be shy a part or so. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going through the manual and inventorying that I have all my parts. So once you take it out of the box and you find the manual, you'll see right here, right when you open it up, this is all of the parts that it says it comes with. So we're going to go through and make sure they're all there. All right, so you can see here that we pulled the plastic off and everything. That's because we went through and inventoried to make sure we think we have all the pieces we need. And it does look like all of the pieces were there. So now we're going to start reading the manual and assembling this thing. All right, so basically steps 1, 2, and 3 get you to this point. We just did them kind of all together. That is putting together these cross members, putting together the bars on the back that hold the netting, the curtains, and then getting the first part of the leg on there. We did that all the way around. The only thing I can say here is when you're putting these cross members together, just remember that there is a silver piece here that you need to have on the inside. So make sure when you're putting them together that the nut part on here is across all 3 sections, because there was one that I just wasn't paying attention and I had it flipped on the other side, so I had to take it apart and flip it. But other than that, it went together pretty easy. Gonna go to the next part. All right, so now we got steps 4 and 5 done. That's putting the framework for the roof together. This is also the part of the build where you're gonna find out if you didn't really follow instructions. So the bolts that are used to put this together, like each one of these bolts, are very specific on where they need to go, and they call those numbers out. So if you didn't follow directions and you didn't use the exact bolts for the exact spots, you're gonna get down to this last section here. Now there's other bolts that we got to put in the legs, but you're going to get here and you're going to be like, wait a minute, these bolts are not long enough to make it all the way through this. Why is that? Well, then you need to go back and look at where maybe you used the long bolts when it should have been shorter bolts. So make sure you're using the right bolts here so you don't have to do what I had to do and actually go back and unscrew some. So a couple of them, we opened the packages, we didn't pay attention to the number of the bolts, and we got them mixed up. So we had to come back, take parts of it off, put it back in. But if you follow the numbers, like it says in the instructions, all of these will work out perfectly. So that was the really only issue we ran into doing this part, and that was my own fault. So that's a disclaimer and a tip for you guys watching this, to make sure you just pay attention to the parts and the numbers. Everything's labeled, everything has a number on it like this. So it's very simple to follow it. You just got to be detail oriented and follow the directions. All right, so now we need to put on the canvas roof, and then we're going to raise it by putting the bottom of the legs on. All right, so now we're looking at step 6 here. Basically, you just pull this over like a sheet, like you're doing on your bed or any other kind of canopy. Again, this is definitely a 2-person job getting this over, but once we did get it over, it slid over fine. The first thing that goes over is this big cover here. And then there's this piece on the top that goes after you've got this big cover on. You basically slide this over the hole there, and then that goes over the top, and then there's some little tie strings up there to keep things from flying up underneath there. But that lets the wind or the heat that's collecting up underneath this canopy get out. There's also some Velcro here that you need to do, but we're gonna wait till we raise it to finish these little Velcro pieces. But not a hard step to do. It just takes 2 people. I think that would be very frustrating for one person to try to get that straightened out and hooked up. So also these little sections on the corners here are sometimes hard to get on. You'll know what I'm talking about when you get to this step. So all I did was get a rubber mallet and hold the button in on the bottom while I tapped them up, and they're just really tightly grooved, so as you're pushing it, it scrapes a little bit of that paint off, but it looks like it's supposed to. They're real tight and they slide up and then they pop in just no problem. But so far, all in all, it's been great. Next step coming. So we got the bottom of the legs put on. It was basically the last step in the manual. And then also to put these screens on, these curtain screens. I unzipped these pieces here so I could open it up and walk through it. And then I left the back one on there just so you could see what the back screen looks like. But all 4 sides will close. So that way, if you have food out here or something like that and you want to keep flies or mosquitoes away, you can close it all the way up and then just have a zipper in the front. And of course, that's what these little curtain fold back things are. And they have little clips here, little expansion things here to hold these back when they're not in use. But yeah, I think this is pretty nice. This will be some really good shade, and I plan on using this for any food or anything like that when we bring it outside to keep insects away. So this is the inside from the top. These are the little curtain rod pieces. And that is the vent out the top. And if you look up there, there's a little hook where you could hook a fan or you could hook a light, something like that if you're out here cooking or sitting out here at night. This is basically what everything looks like from the inside. This does come with some little push type anchors that you can push into the feet to hold it in the ground. But we do get a lot of wind here in Texas, so I don't want this flipping over the fence and being in the neighbor's yard. I'm probably gonna get some screw-in anchors that go in down pretty far, and then you can put a little nut on top of them to hold them down. So I will be looking for some of those. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up, say it was helpful. If you haven't done so already, if you'd subscribe to the channel, that would really help me out. Thank y'all very much for watching. Y'all take care.